Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 3, the Family of Imran, from verses 38 to 45. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the merciful, the gracious. هنالك دعا زكريا ربه قال ربي هب لي من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء. It was there Zachariah invoked his Lord. Lord, grant me a good offspring from you. Indeed, you are the hearer of invocation. فنادته الملائكة وهو قائم يصلي في المحراب إن الله يبشرك بيحيى مصدقا بكلمة من الله وسيدا وحصورا ونبيا من الصالحين. And the angels called him while he was standing in prayer in the sanctum, that God gives you good news of John, confirming a word from God as a leader, stringent and a prophet among the righteous. قال رب أن يكون لي غلام وقد بلغني الكبر وامرأتي عاقر قال كذلك الله يفعل ما يشاء. He said, Lord, how can I have a boy while I've already reached old age and my wife is barren? He said, thus God do whatever he wills. قال رب اجعل لي آية قال آياتك ألا تكلم الناس 3 أيام إلا رمزا واذكر ربك كثيرا وسبح بالعشي والإبكار. He said, Lord, grant me a sign. He said, your sign is not to speak to the people for 3 days except by signal. And remember your Lord frequently and glorify in the evening and early in the morning. وإذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك على نساء العالمين. And when the angel said, O Mary, indeed God has chosen you and purified you and has chosen you over the women of the worlds. يا مريم اقنطي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. O Mary, be obedient to your Lord and prostrate and bow down with those who bow down. ذلك من أنباء الغيب نوحيه إليك وما كنت لديهم إذ يلقون أقلامهم أيهم يكفل مريم وما كنت لديهم إذ يختصمون. That is from the news of the unseen which we inspire to you, for you were not with them when they casted their pens as to which of them should support Mary, nor were you with them when they were disputing. إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يبشرك بكلمة منه اسمه المسيح عيسى بن مريم وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة ومن المقربين. When the angel said, O Mary, indeed God gives you good news of a word from him, whose name will be the Messiah, Jesus, the Son of Mary, prominent in the world and the hereafter and among those nearby. صدق الله العظيم. God the Great said the truth. Now, these verses are a continuation to what we've learned of Mary so far. Yesterday, we've realized in the page before this that Mary was somebody who was extremely connected to God. She thinks of God often. Zechariah asked her a question, and the first thing that Mary did was invoke her Lord and give credit to God as she gave praise to Lord. Over there, it moved Zechariah. Zechariah wanted a child so that that child would also carry on with the legacy of himself, his father, where he would be a servant of God, a pious servant of God. Now notice when Zechariah is asking for a child, he wants a good child, a good seed, one that would invoke God often, one that would give the praise to God. Because a believer is somebody who's extremely attached to God, who really loves God, who really thinks about God often, and they want to please their Lord. Now, if I am going to have a child, I want him as well to have these same feelings. I want this child so that there is another entity in this world that is praising my Lord, that is loving my Lord, that is thinking of my Lord, who is turning to his Lord often, and who is glorifying and magnifying God. A lot of people see it as things that they do out of a chore, that it's a necessary for them to do because they believe that God needs it from them. But rather, those that are really close to God and are actual pious people, they do it from their heart because they know how much benefit they're receiving by invoking their God often, by worshiping their God, and by thinking of their God, and by exalting their Lord. So Zechariah here is showing us that when you are asking for a child, make it so that you are a person who is asking for another entity to worship the Lord that you truly love. And now here is where these miracles start to show. The angels are now calling upon Zechariah when he's praying, and the angels are answering his calls. They're saying that God is giving you good news of a son, right? And now notice, when the angels are speaking to Zechariah, Zechariah is not talking back to the angels. He is saying, Lord, how can I have a boy? So while the angels are answering him and they're telling him what God is saying, he is not talking back to the angels, but rather he's talking to his Lord. This is also, again, a sign of piousness, where you are recognizing that even when you're talking to the messengers at time, you are not actually addressing the messenger. You're addressing your Lord who is working through that messenger. You are addressing these entities that are spokespeople to God, but you are not talking to them directly. You are talking to God directly through these mediums and through these means. Sometimes when you are reading the Quran, it feels like it's actually talking to you, because the book itself is a representation of what God has said to the humans through his messengers, Gabriel, and through his messenger, Muhammad. Yes, this is something that we really truly need to keep in mind, that when we are addressing our Lord, even if we get our answer, we should not start to address the entity that's giving us the answer, because that entity did not give us the answer, but rather God is the one who gave us the answer. And God says here to Zechariah that he is getting a son, which is against all odds. So sometimes when you are asking for things that seem a little bit difficult for you to have, like you've reached old age, your wife is proven to be barren, God can still produce a seed out of wherever he wants, because as God says that he does whatever he wants. And God does answer your calls. If you are a person who is showing true signs on why you want something where it's going to be beneficial for your hereafter, and you truly want to work towards it, God understands this, and God will respond in a way where it is going to be benefiting you. But if it's something that's going to harm you, him not giving it to you could be the best answer for you. So it's not what we want from God, but rather what we need. We can express to him our needs and our desires and our wants, but we allow God to do what he wants, because God is going to do the best thing for us as long as we believe in our Lord and we are serving our Lord. Now here, even how to Zechariah the prophet, it seemed a little far-fetched. How can I have a son at this age? My wife is barren. This is against what science has proven to us. This is against what nature has repeatedly shown us. But God already said that he does what he wants, and he gave Zechariah a sign. And it's incredible that the sign that he picked, where he made him a mute. He made him a mute for 3 days, where Zechariah was not able to speak for 3 days. And yet he made him speak again. So now that goes back to his wife, where his wife was not able to produce kids, and now she can produce kids, because it's all in the hands of God. Becoming a mute can be done something by nature, but God chose to make it so that it's a sign for somebody, so that they know that whatever they've received from God, a promise into the future, for them to believe that promise, however far-fetched and distant it can be. So these are things that we have to keep in mind, that we sometimes can be inspired by a promise from God. And God can show us clear signs that this is where you're destined to go, as long as you keep working forward, however difficult or however distant it might be. Yes, these individuals that we're talking about, Mary, Jesus, and Zachariah and John, these are from the elites, from the humankind. These are prophets and mothers of prophets. But this is also open to you, not for you to become a prophet, but rather God's inspirations and the way that God can answer you. You have to believe in the angels, and the angels are around you. The angels can communicate with you. It does not make you a messenger, and it does not make you a prophet, nor does it make you someone that's bigger than life. But what it makes you is somebody who's guided, and if you show humility and be humble with what God is showing you, then you could see that God is truly guiding you with these entities that we understand as angels. Now, the angels directed themselves to Mary, and they also told her that God has chosen you over all the women. Now, this is something that is very incredible that you see in the Quran. There are many women that are spoken about. There are many females that are spoken about in the Quran, but their names have not been mentioned. Here, God is saying that he has chosen Mary over the women of the world. I believe that this is inclusive, all of the world. Like, I mean, not only in her generation, but rather in the future and in the history, that Mary has been chosen to be who she is. And if you notice in the Quran, she is the only woman that's mentioned by name. That's the only time God calls a woman by her name is Mary, and everyone else is the mother of so and so, or the father, or the wife of so and so. But it never was her name directly. Now here we know that Mary has been favored over the rest of the world. So anyone who wants to make an argument that God has favored someone else more than Mary, this is incredibly not true. God then tells us that He is giving orders to this best woman that ever lived. This is a direct order for her to be who she's supposed to be. She needs to be obedient to the Lord, and she needs to prostrate and bow down with those who bow down. Now, I find it very particular that the word irka'i was used here, ruku'. And I look at the people who tend to try to say that they're closest to Mary and Jesus, which are the Christians, and they, in their prayers, they're always kneeling. The kneeling is kneeling on the floor, and I started to associate the word raka'ah to kneeling, which still literally in Arabic, it does mean to kneel, where you're not bending over like certain groups in the world do, but rather you are on your knees and talking to God or begging God, or you're praying to God. This is also something that the people who do the ruku' like this, also they get down on their knees, and they have a different word for it, but in the Arabic, it's still ruku'. And wasjudi is to prostrate. So kneel and prostrate with those that kneel. So it's not always about just you and with the group of the believers. If I do find people that have some fundamental issues with their religions, but yet they preach of a single God, if they're going to stand a prayer, I don't have a problem standing with them. Yes, I'll filter out the things and I'll ask God for forgiveness on the things that they are saying that's incorrect, but they are still trying to target the Lord who created this world, who created this earth that's in front of us, who created the sky, who made this possible. We should be standing with them. We should be prostrating and kneeling with them, because they might have a misconception about God, but they are still talking about that single God that created this land and this earth. It's still the same entity, despite their misguidances. I believe that this is a good way for us to build bridges, because the Quran is telling us that we have to build bridges, that we have to be a single human community, despite our communities of religions and race and all the other things that we tend to stick together with. But the truth is, God is ordering Mary, who is the mother, who is going to be a mother of a great prophet, who is in the presence of a prophet, to bow down with those who bow down. So these are lessons that the females around us, the women in our communities, the ladies in our communities, can learn on how Mary used to think and how Mary used to approach her Lord, and her submissiveness and her submission to the Lord, her obedience. It is different on how a woman submits to how a man submits, because women generally are a little bit more emotionally driven. Their submission has a lot of emotions behind it, and it truly can mean a lot more than how a man perceives it, because a man wants to work through more so of the rationality behind things. But because what we understand that women are more emotionally intelligent than men, there is a lot of emotions when it comes down to their Lord, where they can truly submit in a way that it's difficult for a man to submit in the same fashion. Now, there's also some of the unknown things that we are being told here, where God says that He's giving us news of the unseen. Imagine this girl that is now an orphan. She is about to be one of the most important people in the world. Okay? She is going to be in a position on the day of judgment where she is the top lady that ever lived in history. This is a gem in the world that is in front of you, but you can't perceive it at this point. And it is an orphan and a child, and the people around Mary were arguing on who should take care of her, because they didn't want to take care of her, because it was a burden to them to raise this child that is not them. So they started to cast pens or sticks, and whoever pretty much is like, whoever has the shortest stick, he's the one who's going to take care of her. So they just put it up for almost this chance, but God here intervened, and as He said earlier, that He made Zachariah be her guardian, or kafalaha Zachariah. He gave it as gave Mary as a responsibility to Zachariah, who is extremely pious. He's a prophet of God. He's somebody who does understand the message of God, and he took the care of Mary. But imagine you on the day of judgment watching yourself saying, no, I don't want to take care of this child. Like, I don't want to burden myself. But yet every second you burdened yourself with this child would have meant the world for you on the day of judgment, especially on who it is. This is somebody that you do not know their future. So this is something that we always need to keep in mind. Sometimes we make decisions for such a short-term goal or for us not to be burdened, but it's involving human beings. You don't know that if you're feeding a child maybe one time, that that child is the one that grows up and changes this world. You want to be part of these stories. You want to be involved in these things, in these events, because you don't know the unseen, but God does. But you want to keep planting the seeds. And you know what? When you are a person that don't turn people away, God will put you in the position to help people that you will not realize who they are until you're dead and on the day of judgment. But God gives you these opportunities without you realizing it. Because you want to increase yourself on the day of judgment. You ask God, increase me. God, please increase me on the day of judgment. And all of a sudden you're walking down the street and a kid comes and be like, hey, can you help me eat something? I'm really hungry. And just like most people will say, no, this guy's probably scamming me. You, on the other hand, you rely on God, you feed the child, and this child, when he grows up, he was somebody that's very important. And you helping him that night, you're part of his story. You're part of this child's story who turned out to be some of the greatest people that walked on earth. But here we realize that they didn't want to take care of an orphan, that they casted it to chance that whoever loses, he's the one who gets to take care of her. And now the angels also talk to Mary and they give her good news. They give her the good tidings of a word from God. It's a promise from God that she is going to have the Messiah, Jesus, the Son of Mary, where he is going to be someone who is prominent in the world and the hereafter, and he's from the people who are close to God. This is an incredible promise that anybody, when they hear it, it's so far-fetched. It's so difficult, it's so distant, because her answer right away, which we will see in the next page, Lord, how can I have a kid when nobody touched me, but God creates whatever he wants? Ladies and gentlemen, we always have to believe in these promises that seem distant. We always have to believe in these promises that they're going to occur because God said so. And the way that it gets produced, it can get produced so quickly, but it's so it's so awesome when you see it happen because it is from the awesome God. God did promise us communities. God did promise us that we will inherit this earth. God did promise us victory. God did promise us many things in the Quran, which we do need to hold on to the rope of God, because the more you hold on to the rope of God, the more you see these promises actually getting fulfilled time and time and time and time again. Even though sometimes you feel like you're in a really tight spot, in a dark spot where, you know what, maybe the next generations, they're the ones who are going to see the promise being fulfilled, but the promise is true. But in that moment, you get rescued and you see part of the promise being fulfilled onto you, which always is an incredible feeling because you know that this is God telling you you're on the right path. Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters in faith, do not give up on the mercy of God. Do not give up on the promises of God. This is something that we are learning here with these two individuals, Mary and Zachriah, who are both given promises, and we've seen those promises unravel. One of them also needed a sign for him to believe this promise. And the other, the girl, where she is giving a promise where all she has to do is just accept it. And God says that she did believe in the words of her Lord. She knew she was going to have a son as soon as God told her so. She believed the words right away. That's the purity, that's the piousness. That's the lack of doubt. That's you just wholeheartedly accepting what's said, but questioning on how it's going to be done. She said, I can't have a son. She said, how can I have a son? There's a difference between I can't and how can I? Because she wanted to fulfill the words of God, but she just wanted to know how, and God made that happen. With that said, I truly believe that we are on a good path as long as we are turning to God and we are trying to be as pious and we believe in God's promises. And one of the most prominent promises of God is that there is a day of judgment and there is a heaven and hell. That will not be broken. And there is no doubt with that. I really hope you guys are enjoying these. All praise to our Lord, the Lord of the worlds, and peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum.